why being a migrant is so hard. This video is dedicated to everyone who doesn't have money. If you're rich, if you can afford not to work, live for your own pleasure, and never worry about the future, just scroll on. This video isn't for you. It's for those without passive income. Let's be honest, most problems are solved very easily with the sound of coins. Even most illnesses can be treated if you got enough in your bank account. But if you are poor, live with nothing more than your survival game. And want migration? That's the hardest level of the game. So, how did it all begin? It all begins in childhood. I remember how on holiday we would create a special, more expensive menu. Food that weren't available every day suddenly appeared on the table. And along with the food, dreams also came true. Maybe a toy that made my soul happy, or a practical gift like new clothes. That feelings of incredible happiness and fullness of life stand with me, somewhere in the back of my mind. I also remember how sorry I felt for my parents, because they worked so much. But I knew why. We needed money. The true price of money isn't just food and clothes. It's lost time and lost health. I saw my father's rough, careless hands and my mother's endless anxiety. I thought they were simply paying their price for temporary hardship. But no matter how much they tried to protect me and spoil me, there was still a price I had to pay myself. Inside me there has always been a hunger for unlimited purchases and a lack of restraint that is common to food. My favorite way to spend time is to go to an expensive restaurant and to buy a new dress. The brightest emotion in my life comes from acquiring material things. And the more expensive those things are, the happier I feel. So if someone asked me the true cost of poverty, I would say fear. A constant, nagging fear that can be silenced by satisfying temporary desire. Because afterwards always comes the fear of losing that little you have. So what happened to me in immigration? I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to earn a decent living again. And that suddenly my usual recipes for happiness disappeared too. And fate handed me one of the most important lessons of my life. For the very first time, I had to lower my expectation, both of the world and of myself. I had to accept that my shining medical career was over, and that most likely it would never bring me joy again. I had to accept that I might spend the rest of my days working as a maid, that I would not longer sew beautiful custom dress or dine of expensive restaurant. I had to accept that I needed to find new, unfamiliar reason to be happy. Was it hard? Oh, very. I had always believed there was only one way for a person to grow, by studying and working. But it turned out there is another path, the path of acceptance and of letting go of expectations. The path wasn't easy, but for the first time in my life I felt true support within myself. And that feeling was liberating. I began to love people more, to be more attentive and forgiving. Then you stop expecting great achievement from others. You start to notice their small victories in the exhausting routine of daily life. And I feel pride when I see those victories. People are amazing creatures. People are amazing creatures. At least until they prove otherwise. In migration, I met people just like myself, wanderers who had lost their homes, their job, their familiar way of life, their loved ones. And I was likely to meet people stronger than me, more resilient, more full of life. And then you see someone who is in an even harder situation than yours, You can help but both comfort yourself and admire their strength. The second biggest challenge after money is communication with loved ones. I've been lucky. My friends and parents didn't turn away from me because of the choice I made. But I have met people who weren't as fortunate. People who faced betrayal from their closest one, who were met with misunderstanding, and who lost contact with family and friends because of their move. Instead of support and love, they were given words of reproach and regret. And then there's politics. Our country has been doing anything possible to make sure I can't keep in touch with my family. Internet shutdowns, blocked phone calls. Each conversation has become a gift, especially when you don't know if you get the chance to hear the voice of someone you love ever again. But even if you manage to get around all the restrictions and hardships, this time another problem appears. Your paths with loved ones drift so far apart that you stop understanding each other's struggles. More and more often, I find foreign thoughts slipping into my head, sometimes slipping out in conversation. My close family takes this understanding, but not everyone is so kind. A fellow countryman who use foreign words easily becomes a target of jokes, gossip and criticism. And then comes another tough stage, finding new friends. Of course, the easiest path is to bond with people who speak your language. But other refugees, just like you're usually too busy. With endless work and constant exhaustion, you can only afford rare meetings, even with new friends. Those of you who have kids will understand the next part very well: socialization and endless learning. Remember when your child threw tantrums about not wanting to do homework or read before bed? Well, now that child is you. You get exhausted quickly because of the endless, confusing rule you have to learn. And every time there seems to be more of them, many of them completely illogical. You're not used to this new world. With fresh eyes, you notice all its flaws and you try to fix them. Your protest, your whine, your pushback, the world doesn't budge under your feet. Congratulations, you are teenagers now. And learning a new language? You mangle words, mumble, point with your finger, and get frustrated when people don't understand you. If the adults around you have patience and kindness, they'll smile, help you, and tolerate your slowness. But if not, then it gets harder. Strange and frightening migrants, that's you now. In Russia, I sometimes saw very aggressive people yelling at foreigners, demanding they speak Russian in the name of respect and culture. Few even defended the migrants. People like comparing themselves to you, especially if you're the newcomer. And then you stumble on their language, they feel smarter, more educated. Will you seem dumber, less capable? You become the exercise for self-admiration. Then you move to a new country, you need to know this. Many locals have already assigned your role. Poor, uneducated, foolish, and unhappy. They will resist seeing anything else in you. I was lucky that my first location country was Albania. I haven't encountered anything like this there. There are so many happy people here, and they treat my attempts to learn their culture with patience and respect. I wish for you this. May you also find your friendly country, and may you hear at least once in your life the words, "Welcome home."